numbers, the Fibonacci numbers, they appear everywhere in nature. It's how nature approximates this idealized perfection of the golden ratios, phi, 1.618. So, just put your hand up in front of your face. Okay. Just roll your fingers. You don't have to be right there. Now just watch the patterns that the fingertips make in the air. Sporadic, can you see that? So if you take, from your fingertip to your first knuckle, just look at it. Bend that. Many years of practice. So if you measure that, it's 1. Let's just call it 1. But if you take the dimension from the first knuckle to the second knuckle, it's longer. It's actually longer by 1.618. You go measure from the second knuckle to the main knuckle, it's longer again by the same proportion. And if you take from that knuckle to the wrist, it's 1.618 times longer again. So literally, just within the hand alone, we have the golden ratio. We have this cascade of information and energy potential from the wrist to the fingertip. But it doesn't end there. If you take the measurement from your, it's tricky. If you take it from the fingertip to your wrist and call that 1, 1.5, 1.6, 1.618 to the elbow. Yeah? From the ground to your belly button, I won't show you. And then from the ground to the top of your head, 1.618. It doesn't begin or end there, it's at every level. So this branching pattern, this geometric and arithmetic evolution is how nature uses to communicate information and energy across all scales, from the subatomic to the galactic. It's called fractal. You know that word? Yeah, and 5 years ago no one knew what it was. We get it now because we're appreciating that everything is fractal. Fractal basically means where the same shape is expressed at different scales. Picture Russian dolls, matryoshka, one inside the next, inside the next. They can sit inside each other, they can embed, they can come home because their shape is similar. So fractality is shape similarity at all scales. And so this opens us to the idea of resonance, the idea that the same shape carries the same pattern of information and energy, and that can be translated, transmitted, felt, and experienced at every scale. So nature uses this principle to allow information to instantaneously be felt at all levels, at all scales, at all understandings. So what does it actually mean for us in terms of our thoughts, our feelings and emotions? Well, pretty much everything. Because how we perceive the world, the processes that go on inside our brain when we look at something, when we hear something, when we sense something, all of that information is received, perceived, processed and interpreted according to these mathematical and geometric principles. In other words, they're distributed throughout our physiological, energetic being so that they get sorted into understanding. And once we have that understanding, then we can embed like a Russian doll inside of life, meaningfully, coherently. So what we have tended to do as a great experiment is to forget this. So if you imagine lining up these Russian dolls from the subatomic level to the galactic level, of which we would see a small subset, let's say from 2 meters down to a millimeter, just to get a sense of it. Sorry, 8 feet, down to a little bit of an inch. And in this sequence, we have arrogantly come along, we decided to take away this doll, throw it away and put a can of Coke. Now, we've moved over and we've taken this one away and we've put a mobile phone. No inherent judgment in any of those things, your choice what to consume and use, of course, but the pattern is broken. This pattern of information flow is not connected to the whole anymore. It's playing a role, but the role is primarily going to show us where we're dying, to show us what waves can no longer embed within the larger natural picture. This does not mean we throw away technology and become Luddites. But for example, in the 50s it was decided that music would be based on a harmonic frequency of 440 hertz. Convenient, no reason why not, lots of reasons for it within the matrix thinking, but the nearest harmonic that nature recognizes is 4-3-2, isn't it? Sure, it's close enough to make no difference.
It has changed actually at the beginning of the 20th century.
Yes, was it? I thought it was the 50s, but okay.
1990 was founded the Institute.
Of course, yeah, our friends.
Yeah, they were basically, sorry for that.
No, thank you, that's good to know.
They tried to provide the one
Okay.
foundation.
Thank you.
It was an agenda.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But pain was invented by biology to show us where to place our focus. So many artists, many musicians had an instinctive resistance to their music being digitally recorded. It was pitch perfect and the recording quality was very high. It didn't have that annoying hiss. But that annoying hiss was the magnetism. That annoying, when we recorded music with analog, with magnetic tape and with vinyl and with vibration, your emotions, your thoughts, everything that brought you to write those words and produce them and sing them and perform them, all of that information was recorded. You couldn't pick it up at an audible level, but you were receiving it at a magnetic biological level. So many sensitive musicians felt that something was lost in that process. And they were looking for a return to that, but it seems almost impossible. So digital perception, digital expression represents a fractionation, the opposite of a fractality, because it's designed to cut everything that is deemed not interesting or necessary, and then focus on the little bit that's left to make it really good quality. Sounds like a good idea. It's efficient, it's clean, it's easily defined and distributed, but it's no longer connecting us to the larger picture. So 2 examples. I'll give you 2 extremes so you'll understand the principle contained within. If you go to an orchard that has been in family hands for many generations, committed by that generation, and loved, literally loved, and these apples, you can taste that love, many generations of attention and time, energy. And if you go in there and you look at the orchard and you just stand and perceive the beauty, the natural undulating landscape, it doesn't have to be something from Rivendell. It's simple, but it's beautiful. And you see the trees, and then you say, I wish to consume the perspective of the earth. Not that, I don't mean consume as in this aggressive. I literally wish to take it inside of me so that I can feel who I am, where I am, and what's going on. And how can an orchard help me with that? So quite literally, you can step in there and you say, this is my desire. I am open, I wish to consume the perspective, consume the understanding. And one of the trees will grab your attention. It won't start waving dramatically, but you'll just have a sense to go over there. You go over there, and classically, of course, you'd have to give it a hug and run the risk of being labelled. But there you are, giving the tree a hug. You introduce yourself, because that's polite, and you ask, can you consume? And one apple will grab your attention. And when you reach up, it almost seems to fall into your hand. You look at it, its shape is toroidal, a torus. You know something's going on, and what do? You open your heart, you look at it, and you bite in. And when you bite in, you'll get this tingle in your jaw. You'll think it's just juiciness, but you get a tingle in your jaw. And as you bite, your eyes will close, your posture changes, your energy flows. You chew it. You don't just you want to chew it because every bite is giving you a sensory experience. And then when you chew it sufficiently, you let it into your body. It gets dissolved, and eventually it gets picked up by the blood and distributed to the cells as energy. And by the time it reaches the cells, it gives that energy through beautiful mechanisms, biological, chemical, electrical mechanisms. It gives that energy to the cell so that it can subdivide and function and thrive. But because of fractality, the long wave of the environment, the shorter wave of the actual physical tree, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89 branches and leaves, anchored in the earth, reaching up to the sky, using fractality, the long wave is able to embed in the shorter wave, able to embed in the shorter wave, shorter. And by the time you pick the apple, the toroidal shape of the apple, the donut-esque shape, is the fundamental form, energetic form in the universe. You might have seen that movie Thrive. But the donut, the torus is everything, as a fundamental building block. I don't want to call it building block, that sounds too cutting edge, but as a form that nature uses to stabilize energy into mass. The toroid is perfect. So the top and bottom of the apple are compressing in because they're giving this spiralic energy, earth, the sky, they're bringing it together in a form that gives all of that memory focus in the seeds of the next generation, the seeds of the apple itself, that can be used to give birth to the next generation. And back in the mystery schools, back in the Platonic science in Greece, one of the signs that you knew this stuff and that you were considered relatively safe is that you would be offered an apple, but the apple would be cut and held out to you, would you like a piece of apple? And within that, you'll notice that the distribution of the seeds are radial, and there's 5 of them. And that's the pentagon. And the pentagon has got a lot of bad press over the years because it was used by the church inverted to represent Satan and all that stuff, because it's too powerful a figure. But the pent, in order for us to repent and be saved, we need to understand that the pent represents a geometry of perfect sharing, perfect distribution. Because if you imagine a pentagon just floating in the sky here, in the air, if you take these 5 points that define it, and you join them up and create the pentagram, or the pentacle, this 5-pointed star, you've created a series of lines that all intersect, but the length of any one of the 5 sides is 1.618 times the golden ratio of times of the next, which is 1.618 times the next, the next, the next, the next. Now keep visualizing that pen floating in the air. Take this side and allow them to come up to a point. Take this side and the bottom and allow that to come to a point. This side and this side to another point, etc., etc., 5 times, and you get a large 5-pointed star floating here. You join them up, and you get another pentagon. Each time this happens, it's in 0.618 times the size of the previous. The area, the unit length, and that's just as a flat plane. When you imagine that in 3D, you get this shape called a dodecahedron. Don't panic. It's 12 sides, pentagonal sides. That's the perfect 3D fractal. If you hold one of them in your hands here, it's got a pent on the top, pent on the bottom, and 10 running around. People say it looks like a soccer ball, but that's not quite true. Just picture that in my hand. If I allow that to come down, floating in, down, 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 but as it comes down, I twist it, twist it, twist it, twist it, twist it, twist it. So it's called nutation. I'm mutating this shape in the air. And every time I do it, the unit size of 1 by 1.618 by 1.618, if I twist by phi squared, cubed, to the power 3, to the power 4, and so on, I'm creating these spots at the points of this geometry in the air, boom, 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 and you get DNA. We're used to seeing DNA as these colored balls floating in the sky, in the double helix. But that's very separating consciousness, these colored balls with lines connecting them. If we see it as bond angles and energy flow, it's basically a dodecahedron that's able to record and connect to all things. So it's able to hold information, distribute it, sort it into its natural harmonics, natural frequencies. And DNA, clumps of DNA that are free to move when you're experiencing bliss, they arrange themselves into a torus so they can do more work. Pretty cool. Now, that's not all. You know the kithump, that should work. That's an electromagnetic signal that encourages our heart to beat and pump. And of course, medicine thinks it's just the heart that pumps the blood around the place. And mythology and religion and spirituality tells us known as the seat of the soul. It's actually both. The right time here. It's actually both, but in effect, that signal consists of many different frequencies nested together like Russian dolls. And all of these different frequencies are constantly changing according to what's going on in each moment in your environment, like an equalizer on the old hi-fi. And so your experience of the world is defining that signal. That signal is instructing your heart how to beat. That's in lockstep phase alignment with your brain and your visual perceptions and your understanding about the world, your belief systems, and so on and so on. So this little dancing package of nested frequencies, like different singers in a choir, is continuously moving up and down in direct response to the elements in the environment. And in this, what happens is that there is a point that spontaneously they can arrange themselves. As minimal as 2 of these different peaks of frequencies can arrange themselves in phi ratio or golden ratio. That means that the peak of one particular signal and the peak of the next one are 1 to 1.618 in ratio. And this is the principle that Jesus referred to, where 2 or more gather in my name, there you will find me. It got hijacked a little bit to turn it into a personality cult, but it's good physics, good biology. That literally when these 2 peaks come together, they literally invite other members of the same party together. So if you imagine one about this high and the one here, the difference between these 2 becomes the next. And if you take the first one and the second one and you add the second one on top of the first one, that becomes the next. It's perfect embedding, fractal nesting, where one pattern will sit inside the next. When that happens, literally you have an experience that you can meaningfully, at a sensory level, describe as unconditional love. In that moment, the environment falls into you. Literally, measurably, metaphorically, spiritually. Because these other waves, which are the fractal natural environment around you, can now come home or find center in your physical heart. So you get this feeling of connection with the planet, connection with life, connection with everything. But it doesn't stop there. These waves are not normally felt by your heart because your heart has a range of frequencies called its comfort, the comfort zone, personality, self, not self, this is me, according to my past life regression, this is me, blah, blah, blah. So we make stories to define who we are in this narrow range of frequencies, not realizing that it's just a subset of something much larger. But we can feel that momentarily with love. Now love is the product of this alignment, but also the source of it. And it's the name we use to describe the very act itself. But that doesn't stop just from the big picture coming home to you. That information continues to reverberate and align all the other frequencies in your body. So they are literally allowing all the waves in your body to start waving together. And because of fractal distribution of our physical system, our nervous system is based on this numbers you saw here. The neuronal network, the neural net in our brain is based on this perfect branching, perfect algorithm of interconnection and distribution of energy and information. The blood vessels, our physical body, like I showed you, all these physical dimensions from our hinge points, they are all part of this too. So that information continues to cascade down, down, down to smaller and smaller scales, down to the cellular level, down to the genetic level, and further again. So love is literally the geometry that connects all things together. So now we have an understanding of what it means, rather than just some singular state that we call love, as opposed to something else. The geometry of love is what nature uses to connect everything, communicate everything, distribute everything. So lightning that comes from the sky is the balancing of energy between 2 extremes of polarity. And it does so, it doesn't just go boink, it distributes it according to this branching algorithm. So the same patterns that we see growing up in a tree, we see the lightning taking. Or if you're taking a long distance flight and you can switch the little TV thingy to give you a picture of what you're flying over, have you ever done that? And you see all these mountain ranges? So mountain ranges can be formed 2 primary ways. It can be 2 land masses coming together, feeling a bit of stress, and trying to distribute and break that stress, coming together and rising up. And that natural breaking takes this fractal pattern, because that's the most efficient way for pressure to be de-stressed. And if the water is running down a mountain, a potential valley, it'll take the path of least resistance, defined by those same mountains. So you have this fractal patterning emerging in the natural world at every level. Similarly in the brain, left and right hemisphere, dancing together, providing 2 very unique different perspectives, but coming together for fusion and understanding. And we have, in our typical way, divided them into different frequencies, which is a bit of a joke, because it's one pattern, one overall symphony. but we talk about the delta, the theta, the alpha and the beta range of frequencies. They've introduced gamma as well because of what we know to be brain activity. So when your eyes are open, the primal activity that's obvious is operating in the beta level. When you close your eyes to begin to meditate, fall asleep, the alpha becomes a little more active. Delta and theta are always doing their thing because they're connected with unconscious biological functions and being able to beat your heart and walk and breathe and so on. But if you close your eyes, alpha becomes a little bit more pronounced. And just like with the heart, it can be that a peak in beta and a peak in alpha come into this P ratio. And if at that same moment, for whatever circumstance and reason, the peaks on the other side of your brain similarly come into like a mirror alignment, where two or more gather, you get inspiration. You have this aha, of course, moment. You trip over a shareable thought. Your brain waves naturally align into this perfect receptivity. And in doing so, you know stuff. So literally, this is what we call bliss, or ecstasy. And the purpose of government and schooling should be to teach us how to find our bliss. I have 5 children, we home educated them, so we know a little bit about this, no stress. And, no really, no stress. They go to sleep when they're tired, they wake up when they're fully rested, they do only what they want to do. Sounds like anarchy. It's cool though, isn't it? Yeah. My son played guitar at the age of 6 in front of 350 people in Mexico City. You know, because he started playing guitar at 2. We didn't push him, we're not hothousing him, we gave him no pressure, just an environment where their bliss would allow for their natural desires to become. Digressing. So literally our brain, our heart, our physiology are designed, hardwired, soft-wired for bliss. We just kind of forgotten. So we imagine everything must be difficult, must be strong, we must control and micromanage everything. And our perceptions are a big problem with this. Because if our behavior is not inducing and promoting and sharing bliss all the time, it doesn't mean we're going around in this pseudo-spiritual state where we're saying namaste to everyone. You can be totally grounded and totally in the world, doing something very practical, but still be experiencing bliss. It doesn't have to be packaged in a New Age philosophy or a New Age presentation. It can be business deal, it can be a martial art, it can be anything. So we have healers that are able to transmit energy and information to a certain point to their fingertips because it's fractal. Their intention and their desire to allow your waves to come into alignment, to heal. Their intention is able to be transmitted through their fingertips. Because you've got the long wave, the short wave, the shorter wave, shorter. And do you know why Indiana Jones's whip made a sound at the end? Do you know why? It's a sonic boom. It's a little over 700 and something miles per second. His arm isn't going at that speed. His arm is like that. But the long wave gets transmitted. So the wavelengths compress and the wave velocity increases. So the tip of the whip is literally makes a sonic boom because it's going that fast. It's that principle that allows our energy to go to a certain point of focus. So, just relax your shoulders, put your hands down. Now, don't look at me, look at your fingertip. Look at your fingertip. Just on one hand, choose your fingertip, relax your shoulders, and I want you to look at your fingertip and regard it, focus on it, study it, love it. It's helpful if you think of your fingertip as particularly beautiful. So let your eyes focus on it, don't deviate, don't let your attention wander. And turn your palm around so it's facing you, like this, it's better. Now relax your hand, don't be sticking it like pointing your finger. Just relax your hand so your fingers are naturally curved. Now as you continue to focus on your fingertip, don't get distracted, don't look away, don't wiggle your hand around the place. Give yourself that moment of focus and attention. It's probably quite rare that you would specifically focus on one singular point of your body in a positive way like this. But does anyone begin to feel a tingle on the fingertip? don't nod for consensus agreement, you know. If you don't feel a tingle, pretend you do. Because if you fake it, you'll make it. Because magic, imagination, magician, they share the same word. If you create an image or project a reality, it will become so. So if you're feeling a tingle in your fingertip, make it bigger. Make that tingle more intense. Can you feel it? Like it's not itchy per se, but you can really begin to feel something building. You getting it? Okay, again, don't feel under pressure. You may never have done this before. Now, if you're feeling a tingle, in one breath, just open your fingers of all the fingers in your thumb on that hand and allow that tingle to instantly manifest in all fingers. You'll notice you don't have to go through finger by finger, linear process by linear process. You had the finger tingle in one finger and now you've opened your hand and you feel it in all. Can anyone feel it in all fingers? Okay. So bring those 5 individual tingles together as one feeling, about an inch or so floating above the palm of your hand, as if you're holding something. Can you feel that energy? Can you feel that tingle in your hand? The middle of the palm of your hand is very sensitive energetically. Some people say it's got a chakra point, who knows, but it's very sensitive for energy. So that tingle that you might have been able to generate, move, and position as a single point of feeling floating above your palm of your hand. Can anyone feel that? Okay. So what you've done is you have used your intention and your focused awareness to allow the waves of feeling, the waves of information and energy generated by your biology and your intention to come into focus in a single point. And if you can, allow that point to build, grow, size of a golf ball, size of an apple. You don't want it to get too heavy, but some of you might actually feel there is something in your hand. Even if you close your eyes, it might actually feel that you have something in your hand. Into that you can place anything you want, an intention, a colour, a flavour. We used to play this in the car with the kids growing up. No DVD hanging on the back of the headrest. You know, they'd play energy balls and they'd throw them at each other and guess what colours and what foods and everything are in them. So in this context, if you generated that feeling, then if you were living several thousand years ago, you would be allowed into the mystery schools. The ability to form a tingle in your hand was a basic requirement for you to join the mystery school 101. So don't waste that energy, just give it to your heart, it's always good. So another example of this fractality. Can I have you up here, please? So I'd like you to stand here, and I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder here. And with both of your hands, I want you to join them together on my joint here, and push down. So physically bend my arm. Yeah, go, bend, as hard as you can, as strong as you can. Right. So I need to resist. Go hard, really hard. Bend my arm, yeah? Okay. Good. Muscle against muscle, and he's most likely going to win there. And this is what we mostly do in life. It's the illusion of a separate self doing battle with the illusion of another separate self. Who's the strongest? Who's the more dedicated? Who's the more focused? Who wants to win the most? And this is a mindset that permeates everything, you know? It's about separation, self, not self, danger, conflict, and so on. So we can, if we understand fractality, we can do something cool. So, give me a moment. Don't worry. It's not a Jedi mind trick. So what happened? What was the difference? Thanks. I didn't instantly become stronger. What happened? What? No. Yeah, the opposite actually. So what he said was, I focus all my energy on this weak point, on this point of danger. No, that's what we would think we should do. Send in the troops. You know, take out the terrorist cell. Sorry, I'm in London, I can't say these things. We were travelling through on the way to somewhere, my family and I, some years ago, and in Heathrow Airport, millions of people waiting to go through security. And we were exhausted, we'd come back from Vietnam or something, and we were there. And I just said, God, wouldn't it make so much sense to have a dedicated line just for terrorists? But I said it a little too loud. We almost missed the flight. It didn't help that I was Irish. I have memories. So, what happened here was I didn't focus on sending the troops in to fix or fight. What I asked was, I asked to be of service to the earth. So I disconnected, no, I didn't disconnect anything. What I did was that I extended my sense of self to include the earth below me. And I said, this may not work, I could be embarrassed. It's not possible because I don't really care enough to be embarrassed. But I said, I wish to give beauty through my fingertips. And I was sending it to whatever's behind that arched opening. Whatever people, buildings, places, in a straight line through there. I asked for it to be available to serve this flow of information, to give a little bit of beauty, without judgment, without expectation, without even thinking it would be received, noticed, but it would have some effect. And the universe seems to align to allow that information to flow. So this is really, really significant, you know, in terms of how we create. So it's not like, is that the word, The Secret, you know, you too have a BMW, you know, it's about being of service for more beauty and more truth, without ego. It's not without ego because you're using the ego, but that's the key, that's the purpose of the ego, to be used in service. So, DNA, heart, head, physical body, and it then comes down to perception, how we process information, because if we're not living a blissful life, if we're not living a life full of happiness, good and bad, ups and downs, but we can ride through it. I'm not religious, but again, Jesus said some really cool things. He said, you know, he shall turn the mountains into valleys and the valleys into mountains. And the Christians, no disrespect, said, this is really cool, because he's so powerful, he's going to kick the Romans' asses, you know, and do stuff. But again, the physics behind it is that he is going to the peaks of experience, and the lows, and the highs and the lows. He will show us the ground state of bliss that exists in both, that is the production of both, that is the natural understanding. It does not mean that we're floating around the place untouched or unmoving. We are totally in the world, our heart open, feeling everything, experiencing everything, and choosing to stand strong, not in a militaristic way, but to stand strong in that fractal connection, and to be all we can be and all we must be. And freedom is not, I can do anything I want. Freedom is the capacity to do what we ought to do. So with finding out what it is we're here to do, man or woman, child, doesn't matter, what we're here to do, not be our primary focus. To find it is, as soon as possible, what it is we ought to do, and then develop the capacity, whatever it takes. Whatever we need to let go of, whatever we need to release, embrace, learn, remember, so that we can get to that state where we are doing what we ought to do. Some days we'll deviate, some days we'll forget, some days it's totally in the flow. But it's deviating left and right with less and less variation, less and less getting lost. And when we're in that state, it's natural, it's open, it's free, everything changes in our life. Our relationships become more enhanced because we're no longer trading for love and attention. We're no longer manipulating to try and get somebody else to fulfill us, to complete us, to fulfill some contractual bullshit that we set up by early on because of our own needs and our perceptions and so on. So our behavior is, and our experience in life is hugely connected by our thoughts, hugely connected to our traumas and our experiences and so on. So perception is everything. So we need to upgrade our ability to perceive the beauty and the truth. Not philosophically necessarily, although that can help just to give you an anchor, but energetically, to see each person in front of you in each life situation as a chance to show you what you have left, what you have still left to call self. And by extending ourself into not self, incorporating the perception of not self into you, you don't lose yourself. You remain centered, you just become more useful to life, more useful to love. And everything changes because just like the arm, you then become used, not abused. You become used by life, by nature, by God, to fulfill everything that you could hope to manifest. Collectively, personally. Sounds good.